Violence spin meets the data. Daily Caller versus terror records. The narrative is shifting and not always, honestly. According to the New York Times' Michelle Goldberg, the White House is using a handful of recent left-coded killings to brand the left as the main terror threat in our society. Meanwhile, the Times' Benjamin Mullen reports the Daily Caller ran an opinion piece that literally said, yes, explicitly, it is a call for violence. And, quote, I want blood in the streets. This is an editorial from the conservative, Republican-leaning Daily Caller, calling for blood and violence in the street. Independent data sets show that across the last 3 decades, the deadliest and most frequent U.S. extreme violence has overwhelmingly come from the violent far right. Even as 2025 has seen an unusual uptick in left-wing influenced incidents from a very low base. That's CSIS, ODNI, and FBI assessments, and ADL homicide tallies. Consistently, it's showing this. Now, the Daily Caller later added an editor's note, but the piece's core message stood. Bottom line, condemn all political violence and stop laundering false equivalents through headlines and sound bites. The Daily Caller calling for more blood in the streets. And yet they say it's left-wing hate speech. It's simply not adding up at all. Let's take a look at what the real message here is. The real message is there is extreme violence in America. There has been for 30 years, and the vast, overwhelming violence where there was motivation from an ideological perspective, it's come from right-wing extremists, not left-wing extremists. You can't look at one or two here and say, let's forget about the other 50 or 100 over there. You've got to look at the data. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. Again, this Daily Caller thing is very indicative of, I think, of the right-wing mindset. By the way, it was founded by Tucker Carlson, who in some people's view is a front runner, a potential front runner to get the Republican nomination if there's ever an election in America again. But he is very popular among Republicans. The fact that he was kicked off Fox seems to have given him more power because he's able to reach out directly on social media to people with his show. So again, 2025 is a bit of an anomaly because there have been some people who have, at least on their shell casings, have said things that would suggest they have left-wing influence. But here's what everybody forgets. In the 60s and even in the 70s, there were true radical left-wing organizations. The Underground, the Weathermen, Black Panthers. There were truly radical left-wing organizations that had meetings with people, that did have weapons. There's absolute zero evidence that any of these people, whether we're talking about the Kirk assassin or anyone else, has ever been to any meeting with any group like that. They weren't even members of the Democratic Party, which we are now told is an extremist organization, according to Stephen Miller. For the most part, these are men who are alone. They're loners and losers. They stay at home alone. They play video games. They share memes, and they own guns. So yeah, it's all well and good to say, hey, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, there were a lot of radical communist cells in America. There were violent terrorists, left-wing terrorists in the 60s and 70s. All true, all fair. But what's the one thing you and I have heard the most from every single Republican candidate, every single Republican politician for the last 30, 40 years, is that people on the left are horrible because they don't like guns. They don't want you to own guns. And their reaction to a gun is, ooh, get that away from me. So if you're really thinking about left-wing influence, that would be the worst possible influence if you wanted to create killers. A far greater influence, I believe, in some of these more recent ones, regardless of what they write on a shell, is the influence of living in a culture where everyone has guns and everyone in their family has guns, and shooting guns is considered fun pastime. And the idea of being tough and playing video games all day long where you're shooting up and killing people online is considered the best form of entertainment. That's a part of your culture too. So I'm not here to tell you every single killer is 100% controlled by or influenced by right-wing ideology. I'm not telling you that. But those who are trying to cherry pick a couple of issues now and make it look like, well, the biggest danger in our society is left-wing extremists are not being honest. They're being profoundly dishonest. They are exploiting the deaths of individuals for their own political goals. And by the way, everyone seems to have forgotten this poor Democratic woman legislator who just earlier this year was assassinated. I didn't see her getting presidential medals of honor. Seems a bit hypocritical. She paid for her life because she had a D next to her name. And in that case, it was a clear-cut example of a right-wing extremist going after Democrats, hunting them down. He had a list, hunting them down because he hated that they were Democrats. And people were murdered. People who actually devoted their lives to true public service and helping people, not just screaming at people and talking about how horrible Martin Luther King Jr. was, the way others did. So we're going to be monitoring that. I would urge you, be careful. We're already seeing this with Stephen Miller. We're seeing this from Trump. They are trying to use the fact that we live in a culture awash in guns where any idiot who looks at a meme and gets angry can go out and murder anyone and everyone. They're using that as a way of branding anyone who doesn't agree with them. Anyone who's not a supporter, they're just saying you're an extremist. There's no such thing as a centrist anymore in the eyes of anyone in the Trump administration. You're either 100% with us or you're an extremist. And if you're an extremist, you're a terrorist. And if you're a terrorist, then we don't have to debate you. We can simply ban you. We can outlaw you. We can indict you. And pretty soon, I think we're going to see actual imprisonment of people who have any views other than the politically correct, the right-wing woke views that get the official stamp of approval from this administration. Okay, we're going to move on now. It's Saturday morning. I'm hoping you're having a good Saturday. I'm having a great Saturday. I woke up today, prepared for the show, but then I delayed it a couple hours. I went out and played pickleball, got some sunshine, got some exercise, got to talk with friends, got to make new friends in my new neighborhood. Played some pickleball with my wife and other friends. Really got the blood flowing. Got out of breath at one point because it was so hot. Really got a good sweat working up. I hope you do something like that today. Doesn't have to be pickleball. Could be riding a bike. Could be playing softball. Could be doing anything other than just sitting watching video. I realize that's hypocritical of me because here I am trying to get you to watch me while presumably you're sitting, looking at a phone or looking at a TV, as many of our viewers do, or listening to a podcast. Maybe you're listening to this podcast when you're on the treadmill, or you're out for a walk, or you're out for a bike ride. So if that's the case, thank you so much for doing that.